Greetings, ma'am. We, the group number 8, are presenting on pedagogical teaching and its approaches. The term pedagogy refers to the strategy of how educators teach in practice and theory. Pedagogy relates to the study of teaching strategies and how they influence students. A thoughtfully considered and effective pedagogy is crucial for helping students to learn more successfully and in helping them develop high order thinking skills. The most effective pedagogies encompass a range of teaching techniques, including a detailed guide for teachers, structured and whole class group work, guided learning, assessment practice, and individual activity. These pedagogies focus on improving higher order thinking and metacognition and make good use of questioning and dialogue in doing so. Pedagogy plays a crucial role in determining the learning outcomes of students. A well designed pedagogical approach can foster critical thinking, problem solving skills, and creativity among students. Pedagogy approaches. When it comes to the fundamental pedagogy, there are 5 different approaches to consider. Each of these approaches is usually placed on a spectrum from teacher focused to learner focused pedagogy. As the name suggests, teacher focused pedagogy revolves around teachers, putting them at the center of the learning process, while learner focused pedagogy is centered around learners, playing an active role in the learning process. Let's look upon the 5 different approaches.
I'll be talking about the constructive approach in pedagogy. The constructive approach in pedagogy is based on the idea that learners actively construct their own knowledge and understanding through their experience and interactions with the environment. This approach emphasizes the importance of learners' prior knowledge, their motivation and engagement, and the social and cultural context of the learning. So, in the context of teaching English, the constructivist approach involves creating learners' experience that encourages students to actively engage with the language and construct their own understanding of the structure, meaning, and uses. This approach emphasizes the importance of creating a supportive and collaborative learning environment where students are encouraged to share their ideas and build on each other's knowledge. So, in the following slide, we'll be saying about the constructivism theory. So, constructivism is the theory that says learners construct knowledge rather than just passively take it in information. As people experience the world and reflect upon these experiences, they build their open representations and incorporate new information into their pre existing knowledge, that is, schemas. So, related to this are the process of assimilation and accommodation. So, in the constructive theory, there are 2 processes, that is, the first one is assimilation and the second one is accommodation. Assimilation is nothing but it refers to the process of taking new information and fitting it into an existing schema, whereas the accommodation refers to the using newly acquired information to revise and redevelop an existing schema. So, this is what the difference between assimilation and the accommodation. For example, if I believe that friends are always nice and meet a new people who's always nice and meet a new person who's always nice to me, I may call this person a friend, assimilating them into a schema. Perhaps, however, I meet a different person who sometimes pushes me to try harder and is not always nice. I may decide to change my schema to accommodate this person by deciding a friend does not always need to be nice if they have the best interest in mind. Further, this may take me reconsider whether the first person still fits into my friend schema. So, for this constructivist theory, there are some consequences. The first one is students learn best when they are engaged in learning experience rather than passively receiving information. And the second, learning is inherently a social process because it is embedded within a social context as student and teacher work together to build a knowledge. Thirdly, because knowledge cannot be directly imparted to students, the goal of teaching is to provide the experience that facilitate the construct of knowledge. The last point is worth repeating because a traditional approach to teaching focuses on delivering information to students, yet constructivism argues that you cannot directly impart this information. Only an experience can facilitate students to construct their own knowledge. Therefore, the goal of teaching is to design these three experiences. So, in the following slide, that is the next slide, we'll be discussing about the approaches related to the materials and methods for teaching English in constructivist theory, which is involved in the pedagogy theory. So, the next slide, the first and foremost one is task based language teaching, TBL. I will repeat it, task based language teaching. So, this approach focuses on using tasks that stimulate real life situation to help learners acquire the language they need to communicate effectively. The task based language teaching encourage learners to actively engage with the language and construct their own understanding of its uses. So, in the next slide, the second one is content and language integrated learning, CLIL. So, this approach integrates language learners with the content learning, such as science, history, or literature. By learning content through English, learners are encouraged to construct their own understanding of both the language and the content. So, in the next slide, the third one, project based learning, PBL. This approach involves students in a long term project that requires them to use English to research, plan, and present their findings. PBL encourages students and learners to actively engage with the language and construct their own understanding of its use in a meaningful content. The last one, collaborative learning. This approach emphasizes the importance of creating a supportive and collaborative learning environment where students are encouraged to share their ideas and build on each other's knowledge. Collaborative learning activities can help learners construct their own understanding of the language through interaction and discussion with their peers. So, to conclude, overall, the constructivist approach to teaching English emphasizes the importance of creating a supportive and engaging learning environment where learners can actively engage with the language and construct their own understanding of its structure, meaning, and uses. By encouraging learners to take an active role in their own learning, this approach can help structure develop not only their language skill but also their critical thinking, problem solving, and collaborative skill. So the next slide will be continued by my friend.
Good day, ma'am. This is Shweta C. My topic is collaborative approach. A collaborative learning approach involves pupils working together on activities or learning tasks in a group small enough to ensure that everyone participates. Pupils in the group may work on separate tasks contributing to a common overall outcome or work together on a shared task. In other words, collaboration is a working practice whereby individuals work together for a common purpose to achieve business benefit. Collaboration enables individuals to work together to achieve a defined and common business purposes. Key feature of collaborative learning begins with meaningful tasks that involve students participating in negotiating roles, responsibilities, and outcomes. Collaborative learning is different from delegated group work. It actively encourages learning and focusing together rather than delegating parts of a task. Research shows that educational experiences that are active, social, contextual, engaging, and student owned lead to deeper learning. The benefits of collaborative learning include development of higher level thinking, oral communication, self-management, and leadership skills. We can use collaborative approach in a classroom by number 1, giving students a discussion prompt, question, short problem, or issue to consider. Number 2, individuals work briefly on a response. Number 3, peers report their responses to each other in pairs. Number 4, some pairs summarize their discussion for the large group. Example of a collaborative approach is think, pair, share, or write, pair, share. Students turn to a partner or a small group and share their responses. This a step further by asking students to find someone who arrived at an answer different from their own and convince their partner to change their mind. We use collaborative approach in teaching to help students plan activities that give students the opportunity to work and collaborate together to learn and grow from each other. Collaborative learning has been shown to not only develop higher level thinking skills in students but boost their self confidence and self esteem as well.
Greetings, ma'am. This is P. Shiniti. My topic is about reflective approach. A reflective approach focuses primarily on analyzing what the teacher and learners are doing in the classroom. It encourages thinking about teaching practices and figuring out ways to improve them in an attempt to make learning processes more effective for a class of learners. This can be done through processes such as self-evaluation and self-reflection, used as ways to essentially learn more about your own practice, improve a certain practice, or to focus on a problem learners are having. Reflective pedagogy. Reflective pedagogy is a teaching model where educators continually reflect upon their lessons and curriculum to improve future iterations of their course. Reflective learning. Reflective learning typically involves looking back at something, a past experience or idea, and critically analyzing the event. By looking at successful and unsuccessful aspects of an experience, reflection will help students to learn from their past experience and turn surface learning into deep learning. Types of reflection: reflection in action and reflection on action. Reflection in action. This is the reflection that takes place whilst you are involved in the situation, often a patient interaction. Reflection in action involves using analysis of observation, listening, or on touch or feel to problem solve. Reflection on action. This type of reflection involves stepping back from the situation, meaning that it happens at sometimes after the situation has occurred. Benefits of reflective practices. Developing and maintaining effective relationship with families, assessing further areas of development, enhance the service you offer. Reflective teaching examples: reflection journals, teaching inventories, video recorded teaching portfolio, students evaluations, peer review of teaching, and class observation.
A very good day to you, ma'am. This is Supriya, and the topic that I've chosen for the presentation is integrative approach. So when we talk about integrative approach, it is one of the modern approaches that is vastly and widely used in today's teaching methods. So when we post a question as what is integrative learning? Integrative learning is an approach where the learner brings together his or her prior knowledge and experience to support new knowledge and experiences. By doing this, the learner draws on their skills and applies them to new experiences at a more complex level so that he or she might comprehend and understand things better on a larger scale. So using the integrative approach to teaching combines many subjects into single lessons, and the idea behind the theory is that students receive maximum learning by acquiring knowledge and skills in more than one area in the same time frame. So integrating lessons could be done with any subject, such as mixing language arts by researching famous artists and then writing a report, or math or physical education where students play basketball while assigning different shots to equal point values. So the possibilities for integrated lessons are endless, as much as there is innovation and creativity. So when we talk about the process of integrative learning, it could be differentiated with high school level and the college level. When we talk about high school level, it is about understanding and remembering, whereas in college level, it is about creating, evaluating, analyzing, and applying. So when we talk about creating, it's about combining parts to make a new whole thing, and evaluating is about judging the value of information or ideas, and analyzing, as we know, breaking down information into basic parts, and then applying the facts, the rules, the concepts, and ideas. Understanding what the facts mean, and remembering is recognizing and recalling facts. When we move on to characteristics of integrated learning, it primarily focuses on problem solving, and it is a compilation of assessment, curriculum development, and faculty development. And integrated learning explores and uses information effectively. It enables children to integrate ideas and experiences and apply them to formulate new learning situation. As we've spoken about it earlier, about how the process is, the same is what has been explained in the characteristics of integrated learning. Creativity, adaptability, critical reasoning, and collaboration are the key features of integrated learning. The method of learning accommodates a variety of learning styles, theories, and multiple intelligence. So, moving on to the steps for integrative approach. The first one is frame focusing questions. Questioning is a base part of integrative approach because your idea or your creativity is brought into exposure only when you have the ability to question. So framing focusing questions. Second, present a field of facts. So there would be already so obviously when it is about integrative approach, it is about contemplating on the prior knowledge, so the ideas that have been already known to us. So moving on to the third, it helps learners connect or relate to facts, and fourth, it helps generate explanatory ideas. Moving on to the next part, 3 modes of integrative teaching strategies. The first, content based instruction, the second, thematic teaching, and the third, focusing inquiry. Content-based instruction is also known as language curriculum. It is the integration of content learning with the language teaching aims. The thematic teaching provides a broad framework for linking contents and process from a variety of discipline. Moving to focusing inquiry, it is an interdisciplinary approach that uses questions to organize learning. It is generally student-centered and teacher-guided instructional approach that engages students in investigating real-world questions. It is a process where the students are involved in their learning and formulating questions, investigating widely, and then trying to build new understanding and meanings and knowledge. Moving on to the last part, benefits of integrated learning. Integrated learning pays particular attention to an increase in understanding, retention, and application of general concepts. So the basic idea behind integrative approach is that it helps you relate to your real world, and where you try to apply the concepts to the real life experiences. It provides a better understanding of the content. Integrated learning encourages active participation. It serves as a connection between various curricular disciplines. It develops higher level thinking skills where you put in your innovation and creativity. And it also ensures active participation by triggering the point of interest of students where one is exposed to explore their.
Okay, ma'am, this is Sumitra, and I'm going to be talking about inquiry-based learning approach. This approach is a student-centered teaching method that encourages students to ask questions and investigate real-world problems. In this type of learning environment, students are actively engaged in the learning process and are given the opportunity to explore their natural curiosities. This type of learning is often hands-on and allows students to connect what they are learning in the classroom and the real world. Allowing students greater agency in their learning can be a liberating experience. Rather than the teacher as expert, this approach allows learners to assume the responsibility of becoming experts of the knowledge they are constructing through a process self-discovery and trial and error, while the teacher's role is to monitor the students' process of constructing new meaning and step in when they need help. The benefits of inquiry-based learning are many, such as supporting students to build their own initiative, encouraging a deeper understanding of the content, motivating students to form their own connections about what they learn, and students taking more ownership of their learning and a sense of reward not just from a final product but from the process of knowledge making itself. Now let us look at the key principles of this approach. The first one is students as researchers. In a typically inquiry-based learning framework, students are introduced to a topic and tasked with developing their own research questions to guide their process of discovery. In an English language setting, one way to model this is to provide a leading question for the students, choosing one that is open-ended and can lead students in more than one direction. The second is teacher as research assistant. An inquiry-based learning model often flips the roles of the teacher and students. Students here become the researchers and teachers assume the role of the assistant or guide to their learning. One way to encourage this is to flip the classroom itself so that instructional lessons are delivered online and class time is devoted to students applying what they have learned through practice and collaborative activities. The third is the peer-to-peer collaboration. Learning from peers and sharing ideas with others is another core principle of inquiry-based learning. Students in a classroom become each other's soundboards, which give them an authentic audience from which to draw alternative perspectives from their own and test the validity of their ideas. The fourth is reflect on learning. The final principle is asking students to reflect on their learning. This can be achieved by posing the leading questions on the discussion board at the end of the cycle to see how students' responses have evolved based on what they have learned. Now let us look at the types of inquiry-based learning. The first is the structured inquiry approach. This approach is a sequential process that helps students learn how to ask questions and investigate real-world problems. This type of inquiry-based learning is often used in science classes where students are given a problem to investigate and are taught how to use the scientific process to find a solution. The second is an open-ended inquiry approach, which is a more free-form approach to inquiry-based learning. In this type of learning environment, students are given the freedom to explore their interest and ask questions about the topic they are studying. This type of inquiry-based learning is often used in humanity classes where students are asked to explore a topic in depth and debate different viewpoints. The third is a problem-based inquiry approach, in which a problem-solving approach to inquiry-based learning where students are given a real-world problem to solve. This type of inquiry-based learning is often used in mathematics and other classes where students are asked to apply what they have learned to solve a real-world problem. The fourth is the guided inquiry approach, which is a teacher-led approach on inquiry-based learning. In this type of approach, the teacher guides the students through the inquiry process and helps them to ask questions and find solutions to real-world problems. This type of inquiry-based learning is often used in elementary and middle school classrooms. Next, let us look upon the inquiry process. Looking at the inquiry process, it consists of certain steps and they are as follows. The first is to ask questions, the second is to investigate, the third is to process and analyze the question, the fourth is to share the findings and to reflect and evaluate the findings. There are certain ways to certain inquiry-based approach in classroom, and some of them are instructional design, question-based learning, inquiry-based rubrics, inquiry modeling, gamification, controversy, mindset, the power of place, emphasis on humility, and so on. To conclude the presentation, effective teaching requires a range of pedagogical approaches to support diverse learning needs and styles. The 5 pedagogical approaches discussed in this presentation, that is, the collaborative approach, the constructive approach, the reflective approach, the integrative approach, and the inquiry-based approach, are just a few of the many strategies that teachers can use to create engaging and effective learning experience for their students. While each approach has its own unique strengths and limitations, it is important for teachers to be familiar with a range of pedagogical approaches and to choose the approach that best suits the learning needs of their students. By using a variety of teaching strategies and approaches, teachers can support student engagement, motivation, and achievement and help students become lifelong learners. Thank you.